15 years ago, Ultra flares appeared in the sky, then giant monsters attacked. A special defense unit was created to combat these kaiju and return them to their Spark Doll forms.
I'm just gonna put you right here, keeping an eye on you. So yeah, I'm actually giving a proper look to Ultraman for once.
Now, my personal history with the series isn't much. I knew about Ultraman since I was a kid and watched a few seasons like Tiga, Nexus, and Ginga. Although I definitely wasn't into them as much as I was with Power Rangers and now Kamen Rider.
I mean, it wasn't obvious enough I like Kamen Rider. My wife is gonna kill me.
Then one of my friends brought up that he wanted to watch Ultraman X again, so 4 of us grouped up every week to watch the whole series. You guys probably know me by now. The moment I finish a show, I want to talk about it, but I do give some time to get my thoughts together. Please keep in mind that I won't be going as deep into Ultraman as my other reviews since my knowledge on the series is limited, so this will be more of a standalone look. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. The obligatory special unit of the season is the Xeno Invasion Outcutters, or Geo.
Nah, too easy of a joke.
Hopefully there aren't any more Kamen Rider references. Our captain is named Kamiki, who you might recognize as Dr. Maki from Oz. Other notable members are Asuna, Tachibana, and in Alien, Dr. Goram. We also have Hayato. I think he looked better with a white streak in his hair. It's a typical day as a couple of Geo scientists try to recreate a physical form of a Gomoda Spark Doll, which was given to this young man, Daichi, before his parents disappeared during the Ultra Flares. Then suddenly, a kaiju attacks. Daichi tries to escape it when a bright light flashes. He looks down and notices that he's turned into a giant. One fight scene later and the giant introduces himself as an Ultraman. Although, Geo doesn't have any data on it. Since it's an unknown variable, Daichi decides to name him Ultraman X. We're told that X's body turned into Data 15 years ago when the Ultra Flares appeared, and that's about it for the overall plot. I've been told that the Ultra series is generally episodic with them being very character driven, so I was pretty excited since I like that kind of storytelling, and I was even more excited to get back into Ultraman. Just look at those miniatures and the kaiju designs. Just look at those miniatures and the amazing kaiju designs, some of which are returning kaiju from older Ultra seasons. Some of the smaller stories are amazing too. Since this is episodic, I'm just gonna go through a few of my favorites, and don't worry about spoilers. I won't detail the last 2 episodes, and there's another reason why which I'll get to later. Episode 5 starts with classic Ultraman kaiju, Black King and Alien Knuckle, fighting X, whose color timer starts beeping. Then we get a surprise guest joining the fray. Ultraman Zero arrived from another dimension to fight Alien Knuckle, so after some shenanigans in space travel, one of the Geo scientists takes a selfie with our Ultraman. Then Ultraman Zero flies off to sell more merch of himself. So Zero just hijacked an episode. It was really awesome to see, and it's only a taste of what's to come. What I didn't know going in is that Ultraman embraces its multiverse. More Ultraman and their hosts show up, including some older ones that I didn't think would make an appearance again. Of course, I won't be showing them because I want them to be a surprise to you. Okay, maybe one more. Ultraman Victory is in a couple of episodes and I still love him so much. Like I said, Zero was just a taste as more show up. What makes me enjoy the past Ultras even more is that they don't feel intrusive, at least to me. It's always kept a surprise for the episode and they're here for a reason, not to show up just cause they feel like it. What's even better is that while past Ultras get some of the spotlight, the show is still called Ultraman X, and he, along with Daichi, are always the focus. The show respects itself while paying homage to the past without overshadowing our leads, unlike a certain anniversary show, but I digress. Some people might think that looking into the past is a bit too much, especially when this isn't supposed to be a true anniversary season, and more so that past Ultras are shown a lot more in future seasons. But like, why? It's amazing to see more lore, and I kinda wish Kamen Rider had a few guest appearances in their own show, outside of specials and movies. If anything, seeing Zero and Victory added to my enjoyment when X is still the focus. But I know that other Ultras are out there as well, somewhere in the Ultra Galaxy. As much as I gushed about past Ultras, they're just a very minuscule part of the show, and are only in a handful of episodes. Sometimes X takes a back seat for focus on the secondary cast, or even civilians of the week. One of my favorite episodes, We Are Nebula, is about a group of aliens just having a normal life on Earth, when their pet baby shark whale named Jolly crashes into their house. An evil organization of aliens challenge them to a game of rugby. I've seen Kamen Rider Soccer and Super Sentai Baseball, so Ultraman Rugby doesn't really surprise me. But it's still as amazing as an idea as it gets. Oh look, there's Dada. TBH, I kinda want a Jolly plushie, it just looks so cute. Oh, do you hear that? It's the theme song to Ultraman X by Voyager. Okay, I knew Ultra music was great, but dang, that is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. The energy from the music, the vocals, oh man, the vocals are fantastic. The instrumentals might be some of the best sounding I've heard, especially those insane drums. Wait, I don't know why, but I'm kind of reminded of the Lucky Star opening. You know what, never mind. The rest of the OST though, yeah, it's fantastic. This orchestral version of the theme for the fight scenes. This beautiful piece called Sound of the Universe. The song for the rugby episode that sounds like Guile's theme. And even this weird vocal-like song that doesn't really make sense but is still really cool. They're all so good. Even if you're not interested in Ultraman X or Ultraman in general, I highly recommend at least checking out the OST. YouTube link in the description for your convenience. But I'm not done gushing yet. I did bring up how gorgeous the miniatures in kaiju are. Super Riot Productions just has that special magic in making them as believable as possible, while making Ultraman the giants they're supposed to be. Sometimes you'll get a mix of green screen and clever editing with the humans to compare how big X and the kaiju are. I'd say that they look amazing 99% of the time. The 1% is a little obvious and takes me out of the scene, but that's just 1%. Every single fight looks absolutely gorgeous, like a painting come to life. Seeing our giants of light rise to fight these monsters on what looks to be true-to-life backdrops. Sometimes I'm not even sure how they pull off the miniatures, since they're extremely detailed and then it all gets destroyed to reveal even more beautiful scenery. One of my favorite parts of Henshin Heroes are the transformations. Whether it's a flash of light or a minute-long sequence, they're always a highlight to me. Ultraman has some of the most beautiful henshin sequences I've seen. I'll never stop gushing about Victory's backgrounds, but X might be right up there with how visually stunning it is. Daichi pulling out the Spark Doll, a female voice saying that he's united with X, the yelling of and then the Ultraman rise. At this point, I really don't know what else I can say other than it is gorgeous. Not to mention the suit. Oh man, X's suit is one of my favorites. Many of the Showa Ultra suits were samey, with the only real changes being made to the masks. Heisei Ultras started to add more color. Now with the new generation, we see Ultras with armor-like suits. Ginga has my favorite design, but once again, X is right up there too. If there's anything that says Next Generation Ultraman, it would be X. Its very modern-like design is emphasized with a stylized X color timer, along with bits of silver accents. Being modern does come with the risk of being outdated, but this is Ultraman. Kaiju from even the first Ultra season still hold up. Sure, some are simple like Black King, but that type of design is meant to be a kind of mini-boss for one episode leading up towards a bigger threat. My favorite kaiju, Dada, fits right alongside X despite being a design from all the way back in 1966. Some suits were remade, but their designs are classics and will most likely remain timeless. Not just that, but the fights are also really good. I've heard Ultra fights described as giant monster wrestling, and that's basically the most accurate description. They really feel like gigantic fights as the screen shakes with every step, and the slow movement of our kaiju going towards X. I really can't get enough of how good this all is. And the movie is just as good too. Totally didn't record it with a new setup on a different day or anything. But anyway, I asked you guys on Twitter what you enjoyed about Ultraman, and here are some of your responses. Akukia Seed says, Best way to describe Ultraman is that he is Japan's Superman. That even though everything seems bleak, he will appear and will save everyone. When you see that color timer blink, you got this feeling that you need to cheer him on. Like Ultraman is running out of time to fight, but he still keeps on fighting. I mean, humanity is doing their best to stop this alien threat. Of course he will do his part. Ultraman at its core is all about the hope to keep on fighting in its bleak world. That's a very hopeful way to put it, and I've seen it being described similar to Superman, so that's a good one. At Heroic Gangster says, the connected Ultraverse as a whole that alludes to other series and stories at times making the Tokusatsu franchise feel unified. It's like I feel a sense of legacy and appreciation to the whole franchise as a whole and being inspired from the past to create the future. Remember that time Ultraman teamed up with Kamen Rider? I wish we had that again. At That Buggy Girl says, Juggler. I think that's from Orb, but I have no vague recollection of it whatsoever. The only reason why I'm actually talking about it is because at Space Ghost it said she's gonna beat me up if I don't include it. So, I'm not gonna include it. Oh wait. At Lady Toku Fan says, Ultraman has an incredibly hopeful message that not many Tokus say they can have. The heroes really go through the darkest of hours, but ultimately through it all, the light at the end of the tunnel is the brightest that will ever be. I really like your responses. They usually turn out to be very descriptive, and this is no different. I like the hopeful sense that Ultraman has. At Space Ghost it also says, big hands to hold me with. At Shooting Wolfu says, I really enjoyed the action, the detail that went into the sets, the kaiju designs, the cinematography, and the random crossover episodes were great as well. He's one of the friends that I watched X with, and yeah, it was pretty fun watching with him. At Tsukoshi Kaze says, the concept of larger-than-life heroes fighting giant kaijus are really cool to me. The variety of stories dealing with different aliens, and conflicts each new planetary defense group encounters adds to the enjoyment. Also seeing how far they've come in costumes, effects, and music. Of course, I gotta agree with that, because those sets, oh man, they're really, really good, and a lot of them do hold up to this day. At It's Ya Patty Boy says, big. A few of you had very, very similar responses. I worry about a lot of you. Sometimes I ask these questions on Twitter, so if you'd like to participate, you can follow me at Marcosatsu. Well, let's get back to it. Earlier when I said, don't worry about the spoilers, it was kind of in jest at first, then I started to think more and more about it. Episodic shows are completely okay. I can get through Garo and Power Rangers just fine. But what makes X different for me is that I feel like a lot of the lessons and development don't really... I'm sorry. I feel like they don't really matter. Sure, an episode could be extremely emotional. Maybe Daichi learns that he's not alone and that he can trust in his friends. Kamiki can show how much inner turmoil he has between deciding whether to go to his daughter's wedding or fight a kaiju that's terrorizing the city. One other episode is about an alien who wants revenge of the death of a loved one. It's all very powerful stuff. However, at the end of the day, I just forgot about them. In fact, I forgot most of the show until I went back to my notes. Now keep in mind, this is just me. I've seen people dissect scenes of triumph and hope, seeing how impactful these messages of heroism are. There are entire Twitter threads about how Daichi is one of the best protagonists because of how selfless and noble he is. That's great. I love seeing thorough thoughts on stuff like this. Although, even my favorite episodes just leave me feeling like, yeah, that was alright, I guess. I cheered alongside my friends during certain moments, and other times, while they were yelling with excitement, I was like, yay? As beautiful as X is visually, I kinda wish there was a bit more. Again, being episodic is okay. That's not what this negative is about. It's something more like apathy. The three biggest factors for me are characters, story, and action. As you can tell, I didn't really bring up the characters because to me, there wasn't much to bring up. Yes, I know they have their focus episodes, but they were okay, I guess. There isn't really a story, and I did gush over the action. However, if there isn't a balance, then there should be a huge section of the positives outweighing the negative. Despite X having great action, it just doesn't feel right when I only enjoy 1/3 of the show. Throughout all my critiques and bullet points, my final tally goes down to one major point. Was I at least entertained? If yes, then how entertained was I? If no, then why not? My answer is, unsurprisingly, yes, I was entertained, but that factor was only by a very small margin. I'd honestly rather have watched something else, I guess. Alright, final thoughts. Let me just say, Ultraman X is not a bad show. In fact, I'd even say it's pretty good. If you didn't know where to start with Ultraman, then I think X is a fantastic starting point. You learn about the lore, the kaiju, the action is great, and the characters do just fine. What disappointed me personally is that it was a bit too basic for me. That's not a bad thing, since it can still lead to awesome moments and there isn't a lack of substance. Although now, I really do just want to go watch something else.
So, in retrospect, Ultraman X was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy my time with it. But something just isn't grabbing me. With that, I'm gonna say neutral. Thank you all for watching. As always, you can support me through channel memberships, Patreon, or just leaving a like. I probably won't be covering Ultraman as much as I want to, but I will do my usual send-off just in case. And thank you, Dada, for not growing 10 feet tall. He's my favorite Ultraman kaiju. Actually, let's have that be the question of the video. Who's your favorite Ultraman kaiju? Okay, well. See ya.
With all that being said, I'll see you guys next time when we fusion up with Ultraman Orb.
And finally, the most interesting, charming, and relatable character on the entire show, who also happens to be a giant space alien, Ultraman Ginga Season 3!
Oh, by the way, there's this little honest trailer for Ultraman X by Paper Pat. If you could watch that, I'd be forever grateful. Thank you.
That almost hit me in the face.